Alrighty, you guys, before we get into the video, this one's going to be a little different. Instead of doing our high polished deck tech, this time around we're doing something a little different. I'm going to be just going through the deck with you guys, kind of like a live stream, sort of, as if we're going through the deck together. We're going to scroll through all the cards, go through all my little thoughts, all my processes, and all those things. So let me know if this is something you like. Alrighty, well, let's just dive into it. Because she's a fish. Well, actually, she is a 4-mana, 3/4 legendary creature, Siren. Maeve, Insidious Singer, lets us pay 2 and a blue to goad target creature, and whenever that creature attacks one of our opponents this turn, we draw a card. This upfront reads strong, and I think it is really, really strong. One, it's instant speed. Also, goad allows us to, even if we aren't goading someone whose creature is attacking this turn, we can still goad someone else's creature, and as long as we don't have a turn before them, that creature is still just goaded. Plus, even if Maeve is removed, if that creature attacks this turn, we're still drawing a card. That creature is still goaded. It's super nasty. Once it's activated, it is basically stuck. And we love that. We love that. Now, Maeve is a control-ish mono blue non-combo deck. Again, I don't like to run combos. If you guys haven't caught on to that, that's not really the goal here. But while we do have some control and some removal, we are trying to keep our focus on non-creature stuff, with the premise being, okay, since we can goad creatures, we don't really mind necessarily if creatures come into play. Plus, as you can probably see already, we're going to be running some stuff that's going to let us take control of stuff or clone stuff, so don't really necessarily have as much of an issue with creatures than we do with others. Editing Slade here. Apparently I hit my keyboard while I was filming and I stopped filming, so this just cuts off. I meant to say other stuff, and yeah, that's it. So we're gonna dive in by starting with our creature. So let's go over who we got here. So first, Alondra Skydreamer. Amazing. This is basically the secondary commander to this deck. 4-mana 2/4 Morefolk Wizard. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, make a 2/2 Flying Drake. And whenever you draw your 5th card each turn, she and her drakes get plus XX, or X the number of cards in her hand. Goes stupid with Maeve. Goes so stupid. Not only am I going to goad your stuff so you can't attack me, I'm going to make blockers in the process while I'm drawing cards. So silly. So silly. And this card has made enough drakes for me to win the game multiple times. Beguiler of Wills is a little bit more tricky, but she's still a lot of fun, especially if we have something like Alondra out. Beguiler of Wills is a 5-mana creature that lets us tap her to gain control of target creature with power less than or equal to the number of creatures you control. Now, this card can sometimes be a little dead draw if the board state isn't right, or if we can't protect her, but in the right board state, it's a game-winning piece, because that control effect is just forever. It's just mine now. That's mine now. And how often do you run into a Homeward Path? We're on Homeward Path more, y'all. I've been running Homeward Path more again, and I've never regretted it, I'll tell you what. Next, we got Cemetery Illuminator, which just kind of lets us access more cards and stuff, as we also are able to hit stuff from our opponent's graveyards to exile. Fog Bank is like the ultimate blocker. We want to make it tricky and harder for our opponents to come at us, because sometimes we won't be able to goad. And I have come to learn that as you goad, the moment you don't goad, those creatures are coming at your face. Which makes sense, of course. That's what we sign up for. The whole point is that you don't hit me, so you can't hit me. So once they can hit you, they're going to. Fog Bank makes it harder for them to hit you. And that's great. Plus, people don't like to use removal spells on Fog Bank. Fog Bank will sit there until a board wipe, basically, almost every time. Or if Fog Bank actually does eat a removal spell, that's a win. That's what we would call a win. Speaking of removal spells, of course we're running Glenalendra Archmage. Like I said, we're keeping our focus on non-creature counters, so she's of course sitting in the deck. Jonathan Harker, nothing bad to say. This also can be Jace Vryn's Prodigy. You could swap between both. Jace Vryn Prodigy is probably stronger, but I like that Jonathan Harker lets us start to cast stuff for free. I think it's super important that we have mana up, because again, Maeve has an instant speed ability, so when Jonathan Harker flips, it's able to start casting us stuff for value for free. So I really like that. Obviously Jace is a safer bet. I run both typically, but I wanted to have, since they do the same thing, I didn't want to talk about, you know, I don't want them both taking up a slot. You could definitely run both, cut something else if you want to, but they do the same thing. Kira Great Glass Spinner is a great glass protector. Maeve is gonna be eating removal. We have stuff to protect her because of that. Kira is one of those things. Nadir Kraken, just like Alondra, is a secondary win condition. We draw cards, we pay 1, we make Tentacle, we make bigger Kraken. So again, our opponents are attacking each other, we're building a bigger board state at the same time. It's so good. Nimble Obstructionist, I think Stifle effects are slept on. I think they're super busted. Run more Stifle effects. I do, and I don't regret it. As you can see, we are also running Tishana's Tidebinder since we're talking about Stifle effects. She's a 3-mana flash, 3/2. When she enters the battlefield, counter up to 1 target activated or triggered ability. If an ability of an artifact, creature, or planeswalker is countered this way, that permanent loses all abilities until Tishana's Tidebinder leaves the battlefield. I just played a game literally 2 days ago where I Tidebindered out something that had an Achroma's Memorial buff in it. It lost all the buffs because of layering, fortunately, because again, it loses all abilities. So it lost the Achroma's Memorial buff and all of its little activated abilities, and it was gorgeous and it was beautiful, and I loved it. Moving on, we're going to talk about Pirated Copy and Shield Broker. Both of these lets us mimic a creature of an opponent, and as the creature hits, we get to draw cards. And Shield Broker lets us steal something from our opponents by putting a shield counter on it. And notably, with Shield Broker, you keep control of the creature until the shield counter leaves. Not whenever Shield Broker leaves play or anything like that. So, steal a Bastion Protector. That's what I recommend. Sicarian Infiltrator is a flash squad 3-mana 1/2 that when it enters the battlefield draws a card. This is a nice alternative mana sink. Again, flash speed, we're able to have options. We are either goading, maybe now we're gonna squad. It's about choices, y'all. It's about choices. Solemn Simulacrum is an incredible value piece. Sower of Temptation, another great steal effect. Thassa, God of the Sea, is just a great value piece, also alternative win con, with that giving our creatures unblockable. There's many times where that is how I'm able to swing in for lethal on the one player that's left. You want them to be fighting each other out, murdering each other, and then you want to slip in through the water and just stab them in the eye. Or the chest. You know, anywhere works. Now the Watcher in the Water, again, another win con. I would say Alondra, Nadir Kraken, Watcher, and Water are our 3 big clear front-facing win cons. Now I know what you're saying. What is the Watcher in the Water, and why did you choose this art? Well, this is the art I actually use, okay? Anytime you see a deck tech, I try to use the arts that I'm actually using. Whenever we draw a card on an opponent's turn, we make a 1/1 blue tentacle. Again, just like the other ones, making stuff while we're drawing cards. Then it enters the battlefield tapped with 9 stun counters. Also, whenever a tentacle dies, we can go to untap a Kraken we control and put a stun counter on something. Super great. Super great. Builds our board states, freezes our opponents, eventually becomes a 9/9 giant beater. We're going to take those. We're going to take those all day. Now, we're going to need some powerhouse to support our creatures. So let's talk about our Planeswalkers since they've just been sitting in view this whole time. We have 2 Teferis, Temporal Archmage and Temporal Pilgrim. We're mostly running Temporal Archmage for that -1 to untap up to 4 target permanents. It's really good, and we want that. We want that a lot. Let's untap our Gilded Lotus. Let's untap our Nykthos. Spoiler alert. Teferi, Temporal Pilgrim, just benefits from all of the card draw that we're going to be trying to do in the deck, so it just made sense. Also makes a creature that gets bigger when we draw cards, which is, again, that's really good. That's really good. And Ugin is a board wipe, basically. We're running him so we can -X, hit everything that we usually can't hit because, again, Mono Blue doesn't have as good of straight-up removal, so Ugin will take care of the job. Now, the rest of the cards we need to get the job done are going to lie on our instants and sorceries. And enchantments and artifacts. But we're going to talk about the instants and sorceries first, okay? Stay on topic. Alright, we first have, of course, Windfall. Amazing. Really, what can you say? Nothing bad to say about Windfall. That's exactly how I feel about Ponder and Serum Visions, both just quick little cantrip spells that let us mess with the top card of our library, draw us some cards, maybe get us a land if we need to. Most importantly though, these are effects that let us trigger stuff like our Sky Dreamer on our turn and stuff like that. Lorien Revealed. If you don't have this card in your blue deck, you're crazy, because this is basically a land. This is basically pay 1, go get an island at the end step, untap, play my island, or draw 3 cards. Finale Revelation is in the deck. Honestly though, it's one of those cards that you could do without. It's strong. I love drawing cards. It's kind of, it feels a little win more lately though when I've been playing it. It doesn't feel like it necessarily is what wins me the game. It just feels like, okay, well, I can also go for a big finale. But Consuming Tide, this is our version of Sea Rift. I don't like to run Cyclonic Rift personally. Of course, you can easily put that in the deck. Come on now. Cyclonic Rift is good. Crazy. You heard it here first. Consuming Tide is my take on it, because this lets us bounce everything besides 1 non-land permanent from each of us. So we get to keep Maeve and then start goading everything that else is kept. Seems great. Blue Sun's Twilight is a way for us to gain control of our opponent's creatures, and if we have enough mana to spare, make a copy. And Aminatu's Augury is a backup win condition for our deck in the form of a sorcery, which is a 8 mana sorcery that lets us exile the top 8 cards of our library. We may put a land card from among them onto the battlefield, and until end of turn, for each non-land card type, you may cast a spell of that type from among the exiled cards without paying its mana cost. Whew, that is a brick of text, but it is a brick of an ability, let me tell you what. Play Aminatu's Augury, develop insane board state, pass the turn, goad, goad, goad. Ugh, it's so good, it's so good. Now, as I said, it's important that we're leaving up mana on our turn, so our instants need to pack a punch. An Offer You Can't Refuse, Counterspell, Fierce Guardianship, Pongify, and Sublime Epiphany will deal with problematic spells, creatures, and triggered abilities. Time Stop, though, is what I really want to talk about. The ultimate stifle, the ending the turn. This card is game winning. Ideally, you want to save this for in the 1v1 scenario where your opponent taps, swings out, and goes to crush you, end the turn, swing back, kill him. That's ideal. Now, of course, there's other times. Oh shit, someone's playing a Crater Hoof. End the turn. Oh, someone's about to cast Rise of the Dark Realms. End the turn. It exiles the spell. Oh, someone's about to do something stupid. Someone's about to take a 16 turn. Someone's about to do nope, nope, and nope. Time Stop is so stupid. It's so hilarious. It's so flexible. Just end the turn. There's nothing more flexible than Time Stop. You heard it here first. Now, of course, Time Stop is 6 mana, but we have High Tide. That's going to double our production of islands if we need it at an instant speed notice. Plus, Blue Sun Zenith and Brainstorm are just some, again, nice card draw effects that we run because we're mono blue, and that's what we do. Now, our artifacts are very heavy in the mana department because that's what we're trying to do. We want to make mana pump mana. So of course, I've got the Soul Ring, we've got the Arcane Signet, we've got the Midnight Clock, but we're also running stuff like Cage Sun and Gauntlet of Power to double our islands. We've got Gilded Lotus and Thought Vessel. I also want to highlight the Throne of Eldraine. God, this card is so amazing. 5 mana. At the end of the battlefield, choose a color. Tap, add 4 mana of the chosen color. Spend that only to cast a monocolored spell of that color. That's our commander. We pay 5 mana, play the throne, tap it, play Maeve, pass turn. Oh, it feels so good. It's so good. It's so good. I won't you. Yes, of course. The draw cards is nice, but the 4, it's like a Gilded Lotus. We're running Gilded Lotus, but it's even better. Granted, of course, we can't use this to activate Maeve, so keep that in mind. We want to use our throne mana priority. Once we have the throne out, spend that first. You leave the rest up. Now, of course, as I said, it's going to be important that we protect Maeves. We have Lightning Greaves, we have Commander's Plate, and we have Giant's Amulet, which will keep her protected for as long as she's untapped. I think Giant's Amulet is slept on. I think most people don't really know it exists. So, hey, if you're a blue commander that doesn't attack much, maybe get you a Giant's Amulet. Plus, we're running the Enigma Blade, or not the Enigma Blade, the Enigma Jewel, which enters the battlefield tapped, but only costs 1, and then taps to add 2 colorless suspended to activate abilities. This is a Soul Ring for our commander, so what's not to love? Plus, Sword of the Animus will net us some value and ramp over time as we Maybe attach it to a Drake. Maybe we attach it to a Tentacle. Maybe any of the plethora of creatures that we have in the deck. Who can say? But speaking of say, let's talk about our enchantments. Now, Training Grounds is by far the best enchantment in the deck. There's really nothing else to be said. This makes it where we pay 1 to goad creatures. Not just goad creatures, pay 1 goad creature, draw a card. Pay 1 goad creature, draw a card, have your opponents get mad at each other because they're attacking each other. Pay 1, draw a card, goad target creature, have your opponents get mad at each other, have your opponents do damage to each other, or they use cards on their spells on each other because they're being attacked. It's like so crazy. It's like, and that's how this, all those incremental values is how this deck really just sucks and feasts and dines on our bones and flesh of our enemies. It's glorious. It's glorious. Anyways, we also of course have Rhystic Study, Teferi's Ageless Insight, Mystic Remora to make sure we're drawing as many cards as possible to feed into our card draw engines. We have Mirror Maid and Copy Enchantment to make copies of anything we need to when we need to. Omniscience will reward us for our card draw, or we can cycle it if it's not going to be useful. Diplomatic Immunity is one of the most effective ways to protect our commander, as it gives her Shroud and it itself has Shroud. Dissipation Field and Propaganda are both going to protect us from our opponents, one by making them pay to attack us, and the other by bouncing things as it hurts us. How dare you? And lastly, I want to discuss Dismiss into Dream. Another win condition for the deck. We have so many win conditions, and this is just assuming that our opponents don't just kill each other with Maeve. But this one requires Maeve, and it is a little mana intensive, so let's listen up. Dismiss into Dream costs 7 to play, but it's enchantment that gives each creature your opponent controls is an illusion in addition to its other types and has, when this creature becomes the target of a spell or ability, sacrifice it. This means goad? No, sacrifice. This lets Maeve become pay 3 mana to kill stuff. God forbid we have Training Grounds out. This is how we win the 1v1. Typically, we want to let our opponents smack into each other. So that's why I don't necessarily mind that this card is 7 mana, because we're basically playing this once we are about to get into the 1v1 scenario. If you play it before then, you're probably going to catch a lot more hate than you want to catch with this deck. Again, we're trying to be insidious little singer in the back, you know, being annoying, difficult, hard to deal with, and taking the win from our opponents right out from their hands. Alright, and then the land base is nothing too fancy. Y'all could probably get pretty crazy with this if you really wanted to, but I am a fan of basic lands. I think basic lands are slept on. Basic lands are good. But in addition to basic lands, we've of course got Castle Vantress, Mystic Sanctuary, Maze of Ith to protect us, just in case the goad and the propaganda and all the rest isn't enough, Maze of Ith is there. Maze of Ith is a real friend. And then lastly, Nykthos, Shy to Nyx. I mean, come on. It's a mono blue deck. Of course, we're going to run a Devotion land. Come on. What's not to like? Did it. You made it to the end of the video. Somehow you listened to me rant for 17 minutes about one of my favorite Magic the Gathering decks. So clearly, you must like me a little, so you should probably subscribe. Maybe hit the like button. I don't know. I think it'd be pretty cool though. And yeah, let me guys know in the comments below if this is a type of video you like, or if you guys prefer just the standard deck text. I definitely feel like I got to give you a little bit more of my thoughts and flavor when doing it this way, but I also understand that people like the polish, people like the cool, and the production value. So I get it. So y'all let me know, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.